When people talk about seafood, they imagine a beautiful plate of fish on a table. But very few people think about the journey that fish took before reaching that plate. The truth is, behind every piece of smoked fish is a story of labor, a story of survival, and for me, a story of smoke. My name is Lillian O. Elikwachi, and the reason I became a scientist began inside the fish smoking sheds of the Niger Delta. The Niger Delta is one of the most biologically rich ecosystems in the world. It is a landscape of rivers, mangroves, wetlands, and fishing communities that sustain millions of people. Fishing is not just an occupation here. It is culture. It is identity. It is survival. Nigeria today has more than 220 million people, and over 24 million Nigerians depend directly on fisheries and aquaculture for their livelihoods. But fish spoils quickly. Without reliable electricity or cold storage systems, communities rely on one of humanity's oldest preservation methods, fish smoking. And that is where this story begins. In the Niger Delta, fish processing is largely done by women. More than 16,000 women process fish every single day in the region. They stand for hours over open fires. Smoke fills the air. The heat is intense. The work is relentless. For many families, smoked fish is the only source of income. And for many women, there is no alternative. As a child, I watched this every day because my grandmother was one of those women. My grandmother raised me in the Niger Delta. For her, smoked fish was not a business. It was survival. Every day she bent over open fires, inhaling smoke filled with toxic compounds. That smoke slowly stole her health. First her breathing, then her sight. Eventually, it took her life. As a child, I remember nights when she would cough for hours. Her eyes burned constantly. Her skin blistered from the heat. At the time, I did not know the scientific term for what she was inhaling. Today, we know those fumes contain carcinogenic compounds called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. But back then, all I knew was this: something was terribly wrong. Years later, I started my own commercial catfish farm in the Niger Delta. And just like my grandmother, I smoked my fish using the same traditional methods. The smoke followed me too. Prolonged exposure eventually led to retinal degeneration, permanently affecting my vision. At that moment, I realized something powerful. My grandmother's story was not unique. It was the reality of thousands of women across the Niger Delta, and that realization changed my life. That is why I became a scientist. That is why I chose aquaculture. That is why I fight for blue food justice. During my PhD research at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, I began studying fish smoking systems in the Niger Delta. But this research was not just technical, it was personal. Working with more than 2,000 women processors, we used participatory research to redesign fish smoking technology together. Their knowledge shaped the design. Their experience guided the improvements. Because innovation should never ignore the people who actually do the work. Together, we developed a hybrid solar biomass fish smoking kiln. The results were transformative. Traditional smoking methods take up to 6 days. Our improved system reduced smoking time to less than 2 hours, followed by solar drying. Reduced smoke exposure by 90%, cut firewood consumption dramatically, increased productivity by 300%, improved food safety and fish quality. But most importantly, it protected the health of the women who feed their communities. As I often say, the smoke that once harmed us now rises as a symbol of renewal, for science, for culture, and for community. Fish is one of the most important protein sources on Earth. More than 3 billion people depend on fish for nutrition. Yet many post-harvest systems remain unsafe and inefficient. Improving fish processing is not just about technology. Food security, women's health, climate resilience, sustainable livelihoods. And it begins by listening to the communities who live these realities every day. This journey led me to create Delta 360 Impact in 2025, a nonprofit dedicated to scaling clean fish processing technologies and supporting women-led fisheries networks across the Niger Delta. Through Delta 360, we are building a living laboratory for aquaculture innovation, where farmers, scientists, and communities co-design solutions together. Because the future of aquaculture cannot be built in isolation. It must be built with the people who depend on it. Those smoke-filled sheds where I grew up were more than workplaces. They were classrooms. They taught me resilience. They taught me purpose. And they taught me that science must serve people. My grandmother never had the chance to see this work, but every innovation we create carries her story, and the stories of thousands of women who deserve safer futures. Subscribe to Delta 360 Aquaculture Chronicles. On this channel we explore aquaculture innovation, blue food systems, farmer stories, climate-smart food solutions, because the future of food may begin in the water.